Okay, welcome to the last session of the day for this room. We are going to welcome our friends from Cisco to the stage. We've got Tinu and Jacob here, who are going to talk about how they're harnessing Jamf integrations in their environment. So please give them a warm welcome.
All right. So as you heard, I'm Jacob Davidson, so I am the architect for Mac at Cisco. I've been at Cisco 10 years. Overall, been managing Apple devices over 20 years now. Cool.
My name is Tinu Peter. I'm the engineer at Mobile Cisco team. I'm not local here. I'm from London, UK. You can tell probably by my accent, but I'm really excited to be here. Cool, so let's have a look at what we're covering today. First up, it's a Cisco IT overview. I'm just going to give you an insight to our landscape and kind of an environment and what we are actually working with. Next up is about automations. It's all about streamlining and simplifying everything. It's about taking out the repetitive work and speeding up anything that's slowing down and having consistent processes in place for our users. Also, we'll be talking about the out-of-box integrations, and this is about the plug-and-play Jamf connections that helps our systems talk to each other really quickly without needing the heavy custom work. And throughout the session, there'll be lots of deep dives and demos to get into the nitty-gritty details.
All right, but it would not be a Cisco IT presentation if we didn't throw some big numbers at you. So let's talk about that real quick. So Cisco IT is around 10,000 employees, supporting 86,000 full-time employees and another 45,000 contractors. So we're in charge of 137,000 laptops and another 60,000 mobile devices. All right, and then let's zoom in on those a little bit. There's some there we don't care about. We'll skip those numbers. So 72,000 Mac OS devices and another 46,000 iOS and iPad devices. All right, so if everyone just read this really quickly, put your hands up when you're done. No, I'm kidding. No, you're lying. All right, so we're going to focus in on a few of these specifically. Before we do that, I give you a little legend here so you know what you're looking at. If it's green, it's something that Cisco IT built. Orange calls out all the vendors, and then purple is any specific vendor tools that we're using. So let's take a look at those. All right. So we'll start bottom middle. So we've got App Omni and Exonius. So those are some out-of-the-box integrations, and those are used by our InfoSec teams for some security playbooks. I could tell you about them, but I would have to kill all of you, so I will spare you. Up at the top, we've got Apple Business Manager and Automated Device Enrollment. If you don't know what those are, you are at the wrong conference. Entra ID. That's just our cloud identity provider, getting the user information into Jamf, and then finishing it out with a Cisco product. It's crazy how that worked out. Duo Cloud handles all of our SSO. In this case, we're talking about the integration with Jamf that handles Duo Trusted, making sure that a device is managed in order to access Cisco resources. So those are the out-of-the-box integrations. And now we're going to start zooming in on some of the more custom ones. So first we're going to talk about enrollment. And the first one we're going to look at is, well, first I'm going to tell you that enrollment is the first step for a lot of our users, right? And user experience at that point is key. We want them to start off with a good experience. And that means for Cisco, a lot of our integrations and our workflows happen here. Because we want that first step to be really good for those users. So we're going to start off talking about mobile enrollment and specifically how Jamf Webhooks play into that. So I'm going to hand it off to Tinu to tell you more.
Thank you. So just keeping in mind what Jacob just mentioned, enrollment is the first step for our users. User experience is key. Here we have a demo that I'll be showing you about a new iPhone enrolling via ADE, which we all know about. And this is just a condensed version, just showing you the highlights of key integrations that's in place. It's all about that zero-touch enrollment, where the user unboxes the device, they sign in, policies and apps are pushed to the device, and the user is just ready to roll to start using the device on a day-to-day basis. So you can see I've pointed out a couple of integrations there. First up is Jamf Pre-Stage, where it just really simplifies our enrollment for large fleets of iOS devices. Next up, we have Duo, which is also integrated within Jamf for secure authentication. That's it. Users are ready to go, and they're ready to kind of play with all the apps and access all sorts of Cisco data and services as well. Great. So I just want to look a bit more detail under the bonnet, or under the hood, for how it's said locally here. So first up, Jamf Pre-Stage. What I want to highlight here is the custom company branding and the tailored enrollment experience that we can actually give to our users. We can also customize our setup. We can choose which Apple setup screens we can actually show to our users as well. Also, at the end of our enrollment for all our users, whether it's ADE or a BYOD device, we have a custom workflow with an enrollment webhook. We send an automated email to our users to say, that's it. They've enrolled their device. They've done all the correct steps, and their device is enrolled, and they're ready to access apps and services. Great. Now we are back to the hub that Jacob shared before. Now we've looked at enrollment, and next in the order is self-service, and not the traditional one that we know, which is a self-service on our apps. This is when, once the users are enrolled, they start to really personalize and use their device on a day-to-day basis. The focus here is that we want our users to be productive without IT hand-holding at each stage. And to show that in practice, Jacob's going to share a demo on the FileVault key self-service.
All right, yeah. So before I show you the actual demo, I just want to level set, talk about what exactly you're about to see. So what you're seeing here is Help Zone, which is our support portal for all of our users. It's not just IT support, it's all their different support needs. Obviously, we're focusing on IT first. So what you're going to see is in the demo, I start a chat with the chatbot, telling it that I'm locked out of my Mac, and using natural language, it's going to determine the best course of action is to offer my FileVault recovery key to me, and we're going to go through that flow and see what it looks like. So here we go. So I'm choosing IT support, brings up the bot. I'm going to tell it I am locked out of my Mac. And it's going to think about it. And just to verify, it's going to double check I'm on a Mac, and it's going to offer some choices. I choose FileVault recovery key. It's for myself. For security, we add in an extra authentication step since we're dealing with some type of secret. It's going to get all my machines. I'll choose the one I need the key for. And then magically, there's my recovery key. And I say that was great. And I have already rotated this key, so don't try to steal it. It's not going to get you anywhere. All right, so that's all cool, but how does it work in the background? Don't try to read all this. We're gonna zoom in, make it a little easier to read. But behind the scenes, so the tool that powers that chatbot is Aisera. So that's an AI tool handling all of that natural language processing and determining the intents. But it also couples with specific workflows, this one being the one that handles the API connections to Jamf. So we're picking up right after that extra authentication step, and we're going to take a look at what it takes. All right, so if we've zoomed in here, the first thing is we try to see if we can look up that user in Jamf. If we can't, it ended in an error and probably get the user to a live support agent, so that would be on the right. Hopefully, we can find them, and so that would be a success scenario. So we know we can look up a user in Jamf, and then we're going to move on to the next step here. So again, we've looked up the user, and now we're going to look up and see if we can find any devices for them. Again, if we can't find one for whatever reason, the agent or the chatbot will tell the user, and it'll get them to a support person. Here we have a split. So what's highlighted here is if it only finds one computer, it can go ahead and just go right into the flow, delivering them the FileVault key. But if it finds multiple computers, as you saw in the demo, it presents those to the user so they can choose the one that they need the key for. Either way, it's going to then use the Jamf API again and go ahead and retrieve that FileVault key and present it to the user. If for whatever reason, again, there is a failure and it can't get the key, it's going to present a message to the user saying, move on to the next step, which will probably be a live agent. All right. So that was self-service for FileVault keys. But what about if the user doesn't have access to a mobile device that's trusted, or another computer, or their coworker's computer, and they can't access the chatbot? Well, they are not out of luck. So we have the FileVault Recovery Key Archive, which by name does not sound like something that will help them, but I promise it will make sense when I explain it all. All right, so we have another lovely demo for you, and again, I'll sort of set the stage. So what you're looking at here is our ServiceNow instance, and this is the help at Cisco facing interface for retrieving FileVault keys for users. It's essentially the same workflow, just not chatbot based. So what you're going to see is search for the user, choose the computer, and then get the key. So let's take a look. So searching for the user, finds the computer, and I submit. And then instantly, I have the recovery key once I click on the actual request item. And then you'll see highlighted there on the screen, there's my key. And again, I have rotated this key. Don't try to steal it. So the difference here, aside from being in ServiceNow where the help agents are already working, is, so what I'm seeing now is I can look at all the requests I've made in my history. So you can always go back and look at those. The other difference is I can now see every request that was made by any user. The difference is if it wasn't a request that I made myself, I can't see the keys. So it's an added layer of security on top of the added auditing that we've put into having the keys be accessed in ServiceNow. The archive portion I'll touch on a little bit later, and you'll understand what I mean by that. But self-service isn't just for Mac, and again, not the app. We're talking about the concept. The app is on both. So we're going to look at My Mobile Manage, which is a whole suite of tools we built internally for our iOS devices.
Great, thank you. So just setting the scene as to what this tool is about, My Mobile Manage. Hopefully the name should give a bit of a hint. My Mobile Manage is about managing our users' needs. We want our end users to be empowered. We want them to be able to take action independently without always opening a new support ticket. We wanted to give them a streamlined experience to reduce friction and save time, both for our users and IT as well. And the highlight of this tool is just it's all powered by Jamf APIs. It integrates directly to pull the right device details from the user's trusted device. And it's built for productivity. We want our employees to keep moving forward instead of waiting in line for support. This is just a quick data flow diagram to show you how this tool works. Here we have a user wanting to use the tool, My Mobile Manage, the SSO, the Authenticate by SSO to the tool itself. And via client credentials, we are able to kind of get the details from our MDM platforms. And in this case, we'll be just focusing on Jamf and iOS devices, of course, and just getting all the device info directly from the device, from the managed device, back to the tool itself. Another great demo. Before that, let me just give a little bit of context. So at the end of every enrollment for our users on mobile, we push multiple apps, Duo, self-service, obviously, and Cisco Directory. Some users love having the Directory app on their device. Some users just didn't like it. When this went live, we had countless pings and messages to say, we want this app off our device. No matter how many times they deleted it, it kept coming back on the next check-in. So this is where the My Mobile Manage app came into help, where we were able to leverage this tool to kind of give a solution to that issue. Perfect. If you can click play, perfect. So you can see that on the right is on the left is the tool itself. I'm searching for my device. I have admin access, so I can search for any device. And on my right is my test device. You can see that all of that information there is all from the Jamf API itself. So what I'm trying to do here is that you can see that the directory app is on the device, and all I need to do is click Remove Directory App. And within a couple of seconds, maybe a minute, if the device is checking in, the app is gone. And soon after, if the user decides that they want the app back, they've changed their minds, it's fine. They can come back to the tool, and they can install the app back again. Behind the scenes, all that's happening is that there's this static device group where when the user chooses to remove the app, they're added into the static device group, and it scopes the exclusions for that app itself. And we can toggle between the static device group for them to have the app available to them or delete them. Perfect. Now that we are back to the hub, the user is up and running, the story doesn't really end here. And this is where lifecycle management kicks in. We want to keep our devices secure, updated, and supported as well.
All right, so I'm not going to keep you waiting too long. We're going to talk about the rest of the story for that FileVault recovery key archive. So let's take a look. So this is a diagram of the future state. This is where we're heading, but I'll talk about where we are today. So in that demo, you saw the help zone bot, or Aisera behind the scenes, give that recovery key to the user. Now today, Aisera is getting that key directly from Jamf. In the future, and what you can see on the diagram, is we'll move to have that key pulled from ServiceNow. And this is going to be part of an automated key rotation system that we're in the process of building. The idea here being that ServiceNow will be the hub for all key retrieval. As part of that, it will sync in new keys as they register. So soon after a device enrolls into Jamf, ServiceNow will know about it and retrieve that key from Jamf via API. Or if it needs to, it'll have a nightly sync to true up any new devices, any key changes, so it always has the latest version. And as far as the rotation will work, because when the keys are accessed in ServiceNow, it can action on that with the audit trail. That will be able to trigger via Jamf APIs a process we're putting in place to rotate the key. So by putting the user-facing and help access for the keys in ServiceNow, we're able to automate the rotation of the keys. One of the other benefits will be is that because in Jamf, we clear out computers automatically if they age out. Another automation, we're not covering that today, but it is on the slides. We don't have the latest devices. If it's sitting in a drawer or someone's on a leave of absence, whatever it is, it may age out and we don't have that key. But with the archive, those keys will stay in there much longer, potentially saving the experience if someone who was on leave comes back, forgot their password, but before this, we'll have to be told, sorry, you have to wipe your device to keep going, whereas this will save them that terrible experience. So we think it's going to be great. And security loves it too. All right, so the next thing we're going to look at in lifecycle management is another bot. And so this one is even more of a mouthful. So the Help at Cisco Computer Record Deletion Bot. Everyone say that 5 times fast, please. All right, let's take a look. So this is not what we're using to clean up devices when they age out. That is an automation that just happens automatically behind the scenes. But this is one that stemmed from requests we were getting from the help desk to delete computer records. That's not something that we ever gave support permissions or privileges in Jamf to ever do themselves. And we were getting a lot of requests to our team to do that. So we approached it in 2 different ways. One was tackling the issue of what's going on that they're making these requests. That's not the automation portion. And then because there are still instances where they do need to delete computers, we put together this bot that will help them make those requests. So as we look at the demo, on the right side, you're going to see the one-to-one chat with the bot. And for the purposes of the demo, on the left side, you're going to see the admin space where that's approved. Normally, these would be 2 different people, not side by side. So let's take a look at what this looks like. You're going to start to sense a theme of how these all sort of work. You ask for a user, you're presented with the devices, choose one, then an action happens. So in this case, searching for me. And then in addition here, you're tying this to a ServiceNow incident because we want to make sure it's connected. So then I choose the computer that needs to be deleted. On the left side now, you see the admin space where you get to accept or deny that request. It will process in the background. All right, so it shows completed on the admin side, and then very soon after on the other side, it will show completed. Now, if it didn't work, the user or the requester would say either it was denied, or if there was an error deleting it, they would be told. But in this case, because it's a demo, it's going to work perfectly. All right. That was all cool, and that was all Mac, but lifecycle management is not just for Macs. So we're going to talk a little about lifecycle at the mobile automations.
Thank you. Cool, so we had a look at webhooks with enrollment and what it can do. How can it help us with compliance? So let me walk you through a very common challenge we all face in IT. Our users forget. So here we have a user who's been using their phone on a day-to-day basis. They've had a really cool birthday present. Hopefully it's the latest and greatest iPhone. They're really excited to set up their device and set up management as well, but they've forgotten all about their old device. They've forgotten to take management off it, and it's just sitting in a drawer, and it's just a forgotten device. It's been about 30 days, and nothing really happens. This is where the webhooks come in to help again, where it's going to have, I'm just going to show you behind the curtain as to what actually happens in terms of the actions. So here we have a user who's forgotten, say they've forgotten an action, and it's a managed device which hasn't checked in. So this device is added to a smart group, and the criteria is that it's a managed device and it hasn't checked in, and for our case, it's about 30 days. This is when the inactive webhook fires up, and all that does is it detects a smart group device membership change, and then soon after, a set of tasks run through to remediate and resolve this issue, which is basically to unenroll and delete the device to save a seat in our Jamf instance. We're looking a bit more into the console view of what it looks like with the inactive webhook, and if you can zoom in to the actual webhook event, so you can see that this is the smart group mobile device membership change that I mentioned previously, which is the event trigger, and the smart device group that I mentioned before as well, which has just two criteria: managed and not checked in within 30 days. Perfect. So now we've looked at the 3 stages, and we're back to automations, to the hub.
Sure. So we're going to take a quick detour before we start to wrap up. So if you were in the keynote, or I'm sure you've heard of it before, vibe coding, right? If you haven't tried it, it's fun or infuriating, or both. I suggest trying it. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because it was mentioned in the keynote, but also it's sort of related to Jamf. So we had an existing automation that would detect when new Jamf releases came out, so we could create stories in our Jira to upgrade our dev and stage instances. However, that was based on me receiving the release email, not a sustainable way to have an automation work. So we wanted to rethink and rebuild that. So did some hanging out with Claude code, and we put together an automation that goes out to the Jamf Pro site where the release notes are posted. It will scrape that, determining if there's a new version, storing it in a cache, so it can know if it's actually a new version or the version hasn't changed. If it detects a new version, it will fire off a webhook to Jira to use that same automation to go ahead and create the stories. So that's just the beginning. Eventually, it's going to pull more context about what changes are in that release, API changes, what's deprecated, if there are any CVEs, security vulnerabilities, so that we can know if we need to escalate that upgrade. It would be great if there was some sort of automated way to know when Jamf releases happen, if anyone who knows Jamf is in the room. But until then, we'll do it that way. Cool. So talking about everything we showed you today, If there's something up there that we didn't cover that looks interesting, we'll have time for questions at the end, or if you want to find us after, we'd love to talk about it, or even something we did dive into if we didn't give you enough. But just to sort of start wrapping up, the general idea of everything we've built, as we've sort of talked about already, is empowering our users. Right? We have a very technical workforce who like to do things the way they like to do them, when they want to do them, independently. They're used to not having on-site support necessarily. We were a heavy remote company even before the pandemic, and that's only continued. So empowering the users to either not need certain things to happen for them because it's an automation that happens in the background, or a self-service fix, or any type of those automations really helps them. And that ties into user experience, which is really key for everything that we do. So the team we're part of is called Device Experience, just to drive home the point that experience kind of is the center of everything that we do in our portion of IT. But experience doesn't have to mean just the user interface. Just because something happens in the background doesn't mean it's not an experience. The lack of a UI, or whatever that UI is, if it exists, is all part of the experience. So making things easier for the user, or the fact that they can run it whenever, is all contributing to an improved user experience. And the other portion, things that are automated, or things that users can do that don't need help from support agents or the engineering teams, reduces that operational workload, which means we can focus on new and exciting things to bring them, bringing on the newest Jamf or Apple features, or whatever the case may be. And that's, that's the more fun thing than going in there and then deleting a computer, because we would need to do that, because obviously the users being able to do their job is what's important. So just to finally end it, our goal here was to show how we approach automations and workflows, and just what we're thinking when we do this. So we showed you some of these, not necessarily to say, hey, you should go build something exactly like this, just that this is what works for us, for our users, for our environment, for our device landscape. And the idea was just to inspire and show these things are possible. Some of them are very simple, right? Putting a machine in a smart group, and then that fires off a webhook, and then something happens, to some of these more advanced integrations that tie in with multiple systems. The idea is really just inspire, and we'd be happy to answer any questions about what we've shown. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Jacob and Tinu. Any questions in the room? Just throw your hand up and I'll come running over. There we go.
Thank you, first off.
Sure.
When you guys are doing the PRK escrow into ServiceNow, what you were showing, I couldn't tell, was that a live query against Jamf, or are you manually exporting the PRKs from Jamf into ServiceNow and just storing them there?
Yeah, so they are stored in ServiceNow. There's a secure table. The permissions to that table are really locked down. And that way, that's how you saw it was really fast, because that was an existing machine. If it's not in there, I'd have to double check. I think it will do a live lookup to Jamf to pull that key. And then it also has the nightly sync to pull in any devices that were missed based off of if it was a newly enrolled device. So there's 3 basic ways it gets in there.
Thank you. Do you find any value in retention of those PRKs?
Yeah, we do. So I alluded to the one where a user, either, the machine was in a drawer, whatever the case is, we no longer had the key in Jamf. And so the ability to have that in ServiceNow longer than we keep the records in Jamf means we either mean an investigator can do their job if they have a device that they need to get access to, or someone doesn't have to be told, you have to wipe your device and lose all your data that maybe wasn't backed up. So it's absolutely useful, yeah.
So you guys have an extremely large deployment. Out of all of these automations, how much of it did you have ready before some of the large rollout, or have you built this over time since your large enrollment into Jamf?
So some of these, I'll talk to the Mac ones, and I'll let Tinu answer for mobile. On the Mac side, we've been in Jamf for 10 years, right? So these have all been built over time, or that's how long I've been at Jamf. Sorry, since like 2012. I forgot, thanks to my manager for correcting me. Anyway, the point is, yeah, these have been built over time, so there's not been a large like migration into Jamf. We did have the migration from on-prem to cloud, which sort of accelerated a lot of these, that we had a more stable environment to throw API requests at. But yeah, they've just been built as we've needed them, as things have evolved. Yeah. And if you want to talk about mobile.
Yeah, so it's kind of echoing what Jacob mentioned as well. For iOS, when we went live, we wanted a couple of things in place, which is the enrollment, the email, the compliance stuff with the inactive tools, termination, employee termination, to how to handle that via webhooks as well. But the My Mobile Manage and everything else was just built over time, just looking at users' needs and accommodating that to what we need to do as well to solution it and deploy it.
Yeah, I mean, behind the scenes, when migrated the mobile devices or the iOS devices to Jamf, so it was seamless to the users, the tooling looked the same, but behind the scenes it had to transition from the old system to Jamf with all the APIs. So it was a lot of work on the mobile team to make that possible, and the users got to keep using the tools they were used to, which was nice.
So you hinted a little bit about sort of what we are dealing with is some offboarding of devices, like, you know, in your case, something was in a drawer too long, but in our case, we have a surplus system and that kind of thing. I'm curious to know, have you started to look at any of the Apple APIs for doing things like unassigning or releasing devices from Apple Business, Apple School, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so it's not one we dove into, but it is something that we do. So we have a couple integrations on the Mac side with ServiceNow and Jamf. So one is we put devices in a particular pre-stage if it's a new hire or if they're a refresh, so that we can tailor that experience when they first set up the Mac. So that's one. And when a device, when it's offboarded, it releases the device in ABM. Now, currently, that happens through Jamf because we built that before the ABM APIs existed. We don't have it scheduled to move to the ABM APIs, but it's something we're going to look to do. Just again, go directly to the source and not have to go through Jamf to do that. It'll also give us insight into all of the devices. Right now, ServiceNow can only see the devices that are assigned to that Jamf instance, our production one, and there are other devices in there, so it'll just close that gap a little bit on some of that device data. Yeah.
Just a quick one. How many people are on the team that manage the Jamf side of things?
How many people are on the team? Okay, so the mobile and Mac teams are technically separate. We share a Jamf instance, so I'll just make that clarification to start off with. On the Mac team, we have our leader, who, if he wants to raise his hand, Grant. I'm the architect. We have 3 engineers, a product owner, and our QA architect. And if you want to talk about
over on mobile, we have our architect here as well, Laurent, who's based in France, a manager, and a couple of other engineers, Krishna, and a developer, Pete, and a whole host of other people. We have a QA engineer as well, but yeah.
But all in all, it's a relatively lean team as far as engineer to device ratios.
You've got a lot of integration with ServiceNow. Are you using like I think there's like a stock ServiceNow integration with Jamf, or are you using custom scripts to hit some of the API endpoints?
Yeah, it's all custom. We don't use any of the out-of-the-box connectors.
Will you be sharing any of that?
Yes, I just did. No, not today. We don't have anything available to open source or anything. It's all pretty custom built for our environment.
Do you have a AI chatbot use case you're most excited about developing in the near future?
Yes. Nothing has been built or even drawn out. I think the one I'm excited about is the idea of putting actually everything in front of the chatbot, making that the UI. So whether it's the engineering team saying, I need to create a policy that does X, Y, Z, or a user saying, do I have this application installed and up to date, or I need this application, or I'm seeing this and something's wrong, and is it take them to a support article, or does it suggest a fix? So making the LLM, the interface, the user experience for everything around devices management is our end goal. So pretty excited about that.
Any more questions? We've got time. All right, well, let's give another round of applause to this excellent presentation.